For Tuesday, the 5th of December. I'm Stephen Ridgway. A couple of updates and patches to be aware of. December Android updates fixes various things, including at least one critical zero-click remote code execution flaw. I knew I was going to make a mess of saying that. So that is being tracked as CVE 2023-40088, and it does not require the attacker to pretty much do anything. So it is quite severe. In addition to that, there are 84 security vulnerabilities patched this month. Three of which are rated as critical severity privilege escalations and information disclosure bugs by the Android framework. So Google has, clearly if you're using Google Android, you will be, I'm sure, looking out for these particular patches and updates. If you're using one of the proprietary versions or forks or offshoots of Android, check that your particular branch has got updates, and as soon as they're available, I would recommend applying them. Also, in the Google space, there is a patch out for another Chrome zero-day vulnerability. In fact, there are some various patches out for Chrome at the moment, but definitely make sure that you are keeping on top of that. And just bear in mind that whilst Chrome may download the updates automatically in the background, I think the default is to do that, it probably won't restart itself. So do keep an eye out in the top right hand corner for that restart Chrome to apply the updates button, and click that. Just as a matter of good housekeeping, it is a good idea occasionally to restart apps, and actually it's even not a bad idea to restart your operating system occasionally. I know that these days things tend to be so stable you can leave them running for years and nothing much will happen, but there are patches that won't apply, and it can trigger things into action. So yeah, bear that one in mind, but look out for the Chrome update if you are using Chrome. So APT28, Fancy Bear or Strontium, are actively exploiting Outlook flaw CV 2023-23397 to hijack Exchange accounts and steal sensitive information. The campaign is targeted against government, energy, transportation, and other key organizations in the US, Europe, and the Middle East. Excuse me. They are using other things as well, including vulnerabilities in WinRAR and vulnerabilities in Windows MS HTML. Bearing in mind, AP28 is a very competent, very well funded group that are basically part of or sponsored by or whatever the GRU in Russia. So it is state level attacks. Bear in mind that whilst you may think your organisation isn't of interest, just be aware of the fact that their interests are much broader than a lot of people realise. So, I have been in security organisations in the past where the head of risk has laughed at the suggestion that some of the that company's customers' biggest risks would be APT groups. He was wrong. Okay, so so watch out for these. If you are using Outlook, just make sure that your stuff is patched and up to date. Um, this particular flaw in Outlook has been used against Ukrainian organizations. It's been used against the French cybersecurity agency ANSSI has revealed that it's been used against government entities, businesses, universities, research institutes, and think tanks in France. Misinformation and disruption are very much part and parcel of the way that Russia engages in warfare. So, do be aware of these things. Do keep your stuff patched, as always. Right, 23andMe. So a couple of things about that. It was so following on from the breach. We mentioned this in October when it happened. There is some more information coming out. Firstly, it appears to have been a credential stuffing attack. Now, yes, okay, we probably all know what credential stuffing is, but just in case, a quick reminder, there are a lot of credentials that have been compromised over the last few years, literally millions of usernames, email addresses, password type combinations. Credential stuffing is basically just throwing that stuff at a website and looking to see, or website or an application or whatever, and looking to see what sticks. Not particularly focused. It's not brute forcing because it's using known good usernames and passwords. It relies very heavily, the success of credential stuffing relies very heavily on people reusing passwords across different sites. A very strong recommendation that every login that you create should have a unique password. And I do appreciate that can make managing this stuff quite difficult, which is why, despite the pros and cons of using password managers, the risk that your password manager is going to get compromised, I think, is less than the risk that you run if you are reusing usernames and passwords across various different sites. So this was credential stuffing. I think the other thing, though, which I find slightly unsettling, is that it does appear now that the attackers were able to access certain DNA information. They were definitely able to access information about relatives. If people who've subscribed to the kind of find my relatives by matching their DNA type service that 23andMe offers. It is concerning if biometric data is compromised. DNA being the most fundamental biometric data that you could possibly have, as in every other piece of biometric data is coded in your DNA. So I know these are generally not whole genome type sequences that are stored in these sort of ancestry type DNA programs, but they are the things that are useful for stuff like working out who your relatives are and working out what your ancestry is. Well, okay, if a hacker knows that you are 0.01% Neanderthal, that's probably not going to make very much difference. But if they're aware of the fact that I don't know, there's all sorts of reasons, and medical stuff may come out of this, a scope for blackmail, all sorts of things. And on top of which, you never know in the future what they may discover is being coded by the stuff that's being held there. So, and you can't change it. And this is the biggest problem, I think, with using biometrics. I said it before, I will say it again, just to remind people, you can't change your own biometrics. So once that stuff's been leaked, it's been leaked. Finally, from me, there is an article in The Guardian that claims that cyber groups closely linked to Russia and China have compromised Sellafield's nuclear plant and have been in the environment since 2015, or even potentially earlier. It is an interesting article. The government says there is no evidence to suggest that Sellafield Limited networks have been successfully attacked by state actors in the way described by The Guardian, which is interesting wording, which means that, well, perhaps they have been compromised by non-state actors, or perhaps they've been compromised by state actors in a way which has not been described by The Guardian. So yeah, it is interesting to see that this stuff has hit the news. Of course, the worry with these things is, even if the systems are theoretically isolated, a Stuxnet type attack is a distinct worry when we're looking at these sorts of systems. Nuclear power station issues are particularly scary. It is also possible that this is just complete nonsense and is meant to introduce fear and disruption at a time when certainly Russia does not want the rest of the West to be able to produce its own power through green solutions. No carbon dioxide output, or very negligible carbon dioxide output from nuclear power. Like us all to be reliant on buying their oil and their gas. So it is possible that this is just a complete load of rubbish. It's also possible that, all right, maybe the systems have been compromised, or maybe they are and have been being observed by UK's UK's state cyber defenders. I mean, I've seen that happen. Well, not seen it personally, but I'm aware that watching, getting the opportunity to watch what your adversaries do, it gives you valuable information when you're building how to defend, and it is relatively. Well, I was going to say relatively common. It's not relatively common, but it is known for organizations to build entire, once they've discovered they've been compromised, rather than disrupt the attacker, just build an entire parallel universe, as it were, of systems in order to ensure that the actual business processes are not interrupted, but leaving the old stuff in place, looking like it's working, just to learn about the attackers. So, and when we're talking about something like nuclear power, the GCHQ will be all over this sort of stuff, I'm sure. So we'll see. It doesn't sound like the Guardian article is particularly well written, so it is entirely possible that this is just spreading alarm and despondency. But the other side of it is it could well be true. Is there anything we can do about it? No. However, if you are involved in critical national infrastructure in any way whatsoever, take this stuff seriously. There are, I'm sure in fact, you are very well aware that there are parts of the world which would love to disrupt and undermine the West for whatever political reasons or religious or whatever you may call it reasons that they have. They are not our friends. So yeah, stay aware, stay on top of it. The investment and the effort you put into cybersecurity is keeping the country safe. So that's all from me for today. I hope you have a good Tuesday. I will see you again. No, I won't. I will speak to you again tomorrow morning.